Hi everyone, welcome back to the Book Brood.
And today we're going to be bringing you our March 2021 mid-month wrap-up. We're going to see how 2 wrap-ups a month go. So far, I have read 3 things this month.
So have I.
And the first thing that I have read is Murder Comes Ashore by Julianne Lindsay. This is book number 2 in the Patience Price Counselor at Large Cozy Mystery series. I read this for Who Picked This Book Club, hosted by Nicole at Who Picked This Book. We'll link her information down below, as well as a link to the live show that I participated in, so check that out. So this is book number 2. Patience is still on her island home of Chincoteague. She still has confusing feelings for her for her ex-boyfriend Adrian, who she exonerated in the first book, and also is confused about her feelings towards her actual current boyfriend, Sebastian Clark, Special Agent Sebastian Clark of the FBI. This book begins with Patience in a counseling session on the beach of Chincoteague with a client and her toddler. And the toddler spills their bucket of shells and beach treasures, and there is a human ear amongst all of those things, which is totally believable for a toddler to find. Like, the things that toddlers find and pick up and bring home with them.
Usually they put them in their mouths.
Right, I know,
So
exactly.
This is good they didn't
so,
do that.
Yeah, that was good that was avoided. So this sparks another murder investigation that Patience feels she has an obligation to help out with. And along the way, she is even more immersed in this love triangle, not sure what to do. Even though she has a boyfriend, she constantly is reminding herself, well, we haven't actually established what our relationship is, even though they've established that they're dating. So she's very confused. And I really wanted one of the men to be like, you can't make up your mind, so you know what, I'll choose for you, peace out, you can do your thing. Yeah. So none of that happened, though, and nothing really seemed to change by the end of this one. I have started Murder in Real Time, which is book number 3, and she still feels very conflicted about her feelings.
Oh my gosh.
So this has all of Julianne Lindsay's charms. It was a great book. It was a great continuation from the first book, but this love triangle, it makes me want to wash my face with sandpaper. It's yeah.
It's gonna be the death of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first thing I read was The Wonder by Emma Donoghue, and I did a full review for this, so we'll link that. Basically, I loved this book. This is a nurse who has to figure out why this 11-year-old child is still alive and healthy, even though her and her family claim she hasn't eaten in 4 months. So this was fabulous, and I really enjoyed it.
The second book I read was The Rogue Not Taken by Sarah McLean. This is the Scoundrel and Scandal series that she wrote. It's a trilogy, I believe. And this story begins with our heroine, Sophie, discovering her brother-in-law in some philandering acts with not her sister, and she is so angered by this that she ends up pushing this duke into a fish pond and embarrassing him in front of all of London society. So she is on the outs, and she has to get out of there as quick as possible. And as she's trying to figure out her escape, she is almost struck in the head by the boot of a marquess who is escaping out a window above her from said garden party, while a lady who is engaged to another man is waving goodbyes to him out the window. So she needs to get out of this situation, and he's obviously on his way out of this situation, and they embark on a journey, much to his reluctance, for a good portion of this book. But eventually they find that there's maybe more between them than each of them could ever have guessed.
Sure. That's how they always go.
Yes, but a wonderful adventure along the way.
The next thing I read was Snow Hunters by Paul Yoon. And this was a beautiful, dreamlike story of a man named Johann, who was a prisoner of war, and after the war was over, had no place to go, didn't want to go home, but couldn't stay there, and so ended up traveling from Korea to Argentina to be an apprentice tailor for a Japanese man. And this story was told with several flashbacks, and it wasn't linear, but it felt very dreamlike and reminiscent and kind of lonely. I mean, this man is very lonely. He's not tied to any place or any person, and he feels sort of drifting through the world. But it was absolutely beautiful, and it showed him, making connections everywhere he went, and just living his life, and all of the other people that briefly touch lives and then go their separate ways. And it was really nice to read. It was a little sad, a little, this guy didn't have a family and a home, but it was, he was looking on the bright side of things. He was seeing the beauty in everyday objects and interactions, and it was really beautiful.
Nice. The next and last book I read so far in March is Scott in the Dark, also by Sarah McLean. And this is book number 2 in Scoundrel and Scandal, or Scandal and Scoundrel, one of those. This one is about the Scottish best friend of our hero from the previous book, and he inherited reluctantly a dukedom, and for a few years does not know that actually came with inheriting a ward that he was responsible for, who is a 20-something young woman. And he finds out when she has embarrassed herself by posing for a nude portrait from a man that was just looking for fame in the art world, who she thought was going to ask her to marry him. And so he has to reintroduce himself back into English society, which he hates, and try and save the reputation of this young woman. And he just might find love along the way as well. Are you okay?
Good for them.
You seem like you're having trouble breathing.
The older man has to come save
he's not that much
young
older than her. He's in his 30s, not his 50s.
It sounds like he's in his 50s.
And you know what? She, not to be spoilery or anything, she ends up not accepting his help in the end, even if she accepts his hand in marriage.
She's a strong, independent woman.
That's right.
Every time you're talking about this series, it just reminds me of Bridgerton.
It's very Bridgerton-esque, yeah. But Bridgerton's just very Regency romance.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a big genre that I
haven't
experienced
genre.
Except for in the show Bridgerton.
You can dive in. I have some recommendations. I will have them lined up for you. We'll do a whole thing of Regency April. That's what we'll call it.
No, we will not. Spoilers, we will not be doing that. Okay, the last thing I read so far this month is Akin by Emma Donoghue. So after reading The Wonder, I went back to the library and got every Emma Donoghue book they had. So this one is about a man named Noah, and he is just about to turn 80. He's a widow or widower. Do they call men the widower?
Yeah, but
Okay, well, anyways. His wife is dead, and most of his family is dead, and he's just kind of waiting around to die. And he gets a call from social services that inform him that he has a distant relative, like a great nephew or something to that effect, who's in the system and needs somewhere to stay. And can he, provide a home for this 11-year-old boy whom he's never met. And he's very hesitant, but through circumstances ends up taking in the boy temporarily. But he had already planned to go on vacation to Europe, to France. He's making like a pilgrimage to explore some of his family history before he gets too old to travel. And so he ends up taking this 11-year-old boy along, and together they try and figure out a mystery of these old photographs that Noah found in his family's, what would you call them? Effects?
Yeah.
And
items. Personal items.
So together they go on the mystery. They try and solve a mystery of these old photos, where they were taken, who they are, because none of them have any faces on them or names written on them, but they're just their initials and landmarks. And this goes into exploring Nazi occupation in Nice, France. Nice, France. And they end up staying at a hotel that was used by the Nazis as a holding place for mostly Jewish people as they were about to be transferred to Auschwitz. And the whole time Noah's trying to figure out like how his family fits in here. Are they good guys? Are they bad guys? Like, how were they involved? And this was like, you had the great dynamic between the grumpy old man and the preteen who's just clearly troubled, and they're fighting and bickering, and you've got the huge age difference. But all in all, they actually get along fairly well when they're not trying to force the other one to do anything they don't want to do, basically. They find ways to bond, and I found this to be quite adorable. And it really reminded me that I don't read enough books with older main characters. And I really liked that dynamic.
Yeah. Made me think of that mystery series of the grandfather and the grandson.
Oh,
that
yeah.
go and solve mysteries.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our mid-month wrap-up for March 2021.
Yep.
If you want to let us know what you're currently reading or what you've read so far, go ahead and throw that down in the comments, and we'll see you there. Bye, everyone.
Bye.